Hello, everyone. Let's meet one of the most enthusiastic persons I've known, a geologist by profession and a language professional by passion, Mr. Vaman Kale or Chandu Kale, and we call him Kale sir. His wit and knowledge of languages are well known. He is always ready to help anyone who needs help in any facet of language learning or its application, including CAT tools, that is, computer-aided tools. He has done translation and interpretation jobs involved in technical collaborations and technology transfer from German and Italian companies to Indian ones. The name of his company is Viva Lingua Technical Translations. Let us talk to him and understand his passion for languages. Welcome to the show, Kale sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So I would like to start by asking you about your company, Viva Lingua Technical Translations. Which services does it offer?
See, I used to offer interpretation, but these days I don't. So essentially, it's translation and localization mainly. I had also helped with DTP services earlier, but these days I don't need it. I mean, in fact, computers are advanced so much that you don't really need any specific DTP equipment. So mainly translation.
Translation. Okay. So you are a geologist and industrial photographer by profession. I'm sure it must have helped you in your translation career. Am I right?
Geology did help to some extent because I did some geology related translation for a company in Netherlands. And there I could very well understand what they were saying. But apart from that, no, it's just, in fact, I would say chemistry and physics that I learned in college that have helped me more.
Okay. Can you elaborate it a little bit?
See, physics helps you understand optics, which is absolutely necessary in using photography, and when to use what lens and the play of light and shadows and the ratio, the grayscale ratio, it will handle, the lens will handle, etc. All came in very handy when I started my color printing in my home. I had a color lab. That was the film and paper printing zamana. So I used to do a lot of printing and enlargements and conversion to slides to prints, all kinds of things. That physics helped, and chemistry, of course. And chemistry helped later on when I came in contact with metallurgy. It definitely helped. Geology did not much help, really.
Not much. Okay. But your science background, we can say, it helped you.
It does.
Yes. You specialize in many technical fields as a translator and previously as an interpreter. So which technical fields do you handle?
Mainly automotive machine building, that kind of mechanical engineering kind. And these days, IT, because I did study a little bit of languages and web designing and things like that. So
I see.
I am familiar with those concepts. I'm not a programmer. I'm not a very good Java specialist or anything, but I understand it.
Okay, nice. Sir, you completed the Grosses Sprachdiplom in Germany from Goethe-Institut Ludwig Maximilian Universität München. So how was that experience? I think that must have been way back, right?
Actually, the degree is from there. I did the studying here. There were no courses for it. After my Oberstufe, I saw that there was an ad for Kleines Deutsches Sprachdiplom. So I asked my teacher, and they said, "You take these books and study at home. If there are any questions, we are here to help you." So with their guidance, I gave the Kleines Sprachdiplom, and then after I joined Tata Motors, this opportunity came, and then I realized better German knowledge would definitely be useful. So I studied for it,
Mm.
and the certificate did come from Germany, and there were two German interviewers who had come
Okay.
for
Hmm.
interview. So
Huh.
I was kind of interviewed by Germans, but in India.
But in India. Okay. Nice. So there is a lot of talk about terminology management and localization.
Yeah.
So can you explain both the terms to us?
Terminology management is a, every sector
Hmm.
has its own terminology. Like say engineering sector, in electrical, mechanical, civil, they all have their own specific terminologies, just like economics. Even in banks and insurance and such things have different terminologies, and you have to use the precise term. For that, you have to have at least a good knowledge of the terms they use, even if you don't understand much of insurance or banking. And these, to jump a question, these terminology tools help you there, because you can
Okay.
form a term base for a specific sector or even a specific company. So, for example, something, a hatchback, might be called a tailgate or rear hatch in different, depending upon whether you are doing for Volkswagen or Mercedes Benz or BMW or whatever. So they have their own terms. So their terminology work is very important. And otherwise, they pointed out as an error on your part, and your score goes down.
Okay.
And that's why localization is also similar in the sense. To again give an example, I was doing some Volkswagen translation, and I realized that the translation was for the Volkswagen factory here in Chakan, in
Okay.
Ranjangaon,
Huh.
and they had asked me to do it in US English. I said, what is the point? You're going to talk to factory workers on the floor. So what a trunk is in US makes no sense at all to an Indian car owner. You call him a
Right.
dicky, whereas the English call it a boot. Trunk or boot makes no sense for an Indian. It's called a dicky. So that is the localization part of it. Then, of course, you have to change the currencies and foot-pound system to MKG system. That also part of localization. Like Amazon, certain a bill, for example, a bill in America is a note,
Huh.
50 note, 100
Currency.
rupee note,
Right.
currency note. And what we call the bill, they call it check.
Huh.
Things have to be localized. If you, depending upon whether you are dealing with Indian or in UK English or US English or even Australian English, localization does.
Okay. Great. You are one of the first translators to use a CAT tool. I think Trados was the only tool available at that time. And now you're using the modern tools too, of course. So we would like to know about it. And I have seen that there is a reluctance to use CAT tools. So if you could highlight that also.
Yeah. I read somewhere when it was still the Windows 95 Zamana. I read about those CAT tools in some mail or somewhere, I don't know. And it caught my attention, caught my fancy, that you could actually use it like a template to translate. So I wrote to them. At that time, it was not available here. So I didn't even have a credit card because they were not prevalent other. So I asked my sister-in-law in Australia whether I can use her card number. I'll return to her the amount in rupees. She said, okay. So I bought Trados, I think it was 3.5. And it proved it's quite soon. That time I had one of the first foreign jobs I had got. It was from an American company, and it was a 55,000 words document or something, and she wanted it in 15 days. My God, I had a tough time because there were a lot of repetitions. I remembered that there were repetitions, but where will I find them in the entire document? Then I had to
Yes.
hunt for it, and by using the find tool, and they were of course not identical, they were different. Then I had to paste them here, change it. And after that, I said, I have bought this tool, let me do something about it. So I went through it. Then I realized, my God, I would have finished it in 10 days instead of 15 days if I had used this tool. After that, I started using for every single job, no matter if it's a 1-page job or a 55-page job. So I started using that. And when I told it to this lady, she said, of course, yeah, we are also using the same tool. Yes, great that you are using. We can give you more work. I said, oh, great.
Oh, good.
So after
Good.
that,
Yeah.
then I started talking about it, advertising about it. And I tried to sell it. Even Europeans, they were not aware of it. As you are aware, we went to a Philips
Yeah.
workshop. I tried to tell to that man, you have so many patents there. Let me put it in tool, and at least you will have a database. After you
Correct.
are gone, the database base will vanish. He says, this Trados evangelist here. I said, I don't get any commission from them. Yes, I did teach it to various people in Pune also. Yes.
Yes. And why do you think there is a reluctance to use it? I mean, worldwide, not only in India or otherwise, overall.
I think the main problem is that they think that the tool translates it. The tool doesn't. You do translation. It only stores it. The tool does not automatically translate. You can put the whole document and wait for it to happen. Nothing happens. But they always equate translation tools with automatic translation.
Oh.
And that time, I think the automatic translation was offered by Yahoo and Altavista and Copernicus. And they always thought I put it in that tool and give them an automatic result. And it may be Phaltu, which it was actually. That's why. And another thing is, even now, when I try to teach it to a friend, I've been working on a friend, trying to get him to use that thing. I told him, you get this thing that is so repetitive. He says, yes, yes, I have now all mugged up and it's very automatic. I showed it to him. Out of 55 sentences, he has got 15 which are similar, identical. I said, you can save time here.
Yes.
I think they find opening a segment and then translating it and then closing it and going to the next sentence. They think it slows them down. It doesn't. Well, it does slow them down a bit in the initial stages, but later on it goes much faster. But I did find one good student who was reluctant to use it, and when he used it, he started telling me, oh, the guy is so fast. I did one, all of it, next 8 segments, it did it all by itself. I said, now you believe it? So reluctance is mainly because of, and these days Google gives fairly good translation, but you can always make out Google translation. But it is often quite correct. But yes, after Trados came many more tools. One MemoQ, which I've been following since it was called SkyCat. SkyCat, I think. That was in 95, I think. No, 2005. And that time it was new. Ross had also come at that time. Transit was there. I tried them all because various customers require that tool. If they ask for transit, I cannot say no. I have to buy transit and do their work. In any case, the cost is recovered in the job. And I did use Across. I got a very big Across job, and it did pay off at that time. MemoQ is very good. One company kept giving me memo queue jobs. It was only memo queue on that. These days I'm getting something on WordFast.
Okay.
WordFast online and offline tool. I've been using all of them. Yes.
Nice. In addition to German, you have also learned many other languages. So I would like to know about them. And my next question will come later, depending on that.
Yes. German. Yes. German I learned as one of the optional subjects in my first year in college. And the option was English, French, or Marathi. And all my Marathi school friends opted for Marathi because German looked like too difficult. But only 2-3 people in my class took up German. And yeah, at that, and we had other people who had come from English schools and they learned German there. And they आम्हाला हेटाळणी करतात. We had already learned. And I really did not understand German at all. In the first 2 terms, I used to get 35, 38 marks out of 100. And but our teacher, as luck would have it, he sprained his leg and went on a leave. And one father came, Father Leatherley. काय जादू त्याने केली, I have no idea. But I managed to understand what I had not understood in the past 2 terms. And I ended up getting 78 marks out of 100.
Oh, quite a
And after that, during my MSc, between 2 terms, I had joined Maximal Bhavan and applied, saying, if you want to take me to, I already know a little bit. So Grundstufe 2, if you could take me, otherwise Grundstufe 1 is okay. They put me in Mittelstufe 1. And that was a tough job. It was an uphill task, but I did it and I started loving that language. And yes, I did also learn a little bit of French, a little bit of Swedish, and a little bit of Dutch.
Okay.
And later on Italian and a little Spanish. Okay, now your question.
Yes, the same question related to this. Like, how does one learn so many languages? Because I know that you are also doing Marathi to English or English to Marathi, Hindi translations. I mean, not in on a big scale like German, but a little bit.
Yeah. How? I don't know how, because it has to be inborn, I think. A love for languages, just like you have to know or understand music or want to play cricket or hockey or tennis. I may not like cricket, but I like tennis and badminton. But similarly, there is no logical explanation. But I did learn my French in during summer holidays after my FYBSc. Like I completed German after my MSc Part 1. And then Italian, a friend of mine also called Marathi, Anju Marathi. She knew French and we together started learning Italian. And later on, I learned that they were teaching Italian at the Deccan College. So I did that course, certificate 1, 2, 3. I had also another brilliant student called Shekhar Phatak in my class. And absolutely brilliant. And he and I also did Spanish later on.
Okay.
And Spanish is so similar to Italian. It was almost no effort to learn Spanish. You just have to spell differently. You have to watch out for false friends there. Like example is in Italian, butter is called burro. But in Spanish, it's not called burro. It's called mantequilla. Burro means a donkey.
Oh, okay.
So you have to watch it. That also explains why Californians called a donkey a burro.
Oh, okay.
And similar, I learned Dutch because this Anju Marathi that I mentioned, she met a Dutchman in my house. He was my guest, and they got married and went to Holland. I said, Swedish in his house. So I checked it, but it looks similar to German, but didn't quite catch it because their gender system and plural singular are a bit different. But I learned it through Linguaphone language records, and I did acquire a good knowledge of it. Persian I learned just to learn that script mainly. I have no interest in ghazals and things like that. Mainly that time to figure out whether Urdu is really a mix of Persian and Hindi, which it is. It confirmed my summers.
Okay.
And yes, Hindi I don't like much really. I don't like to translate Hindi either. English, Marathi, yes, fine.
Yes, okay.
Marathi
And
is
you
quite
recently
good.
learned Chinese. Sorry.
That is out of a curiosity. I had learned Japanese earlier, and I had learned to write those kanjis. And I was told that the Japanese imported those letters from China. I said, then what are the original Chinese letters? So we found a Young Institute here, Yashodhara Gadge, and I did 2-3 courses there. And but like Japanese, it's very easy to forget it. You're not in contact with it for 10 days, you keep forgetting, forgetting. But I found it an absolutely amazing experience because it deals with concepts, not the letters.
Okay.
If I write, say, electric lamp, then E-A-C-T-R-I-C or Vidyut, and then Akshara, Vidyut, out of that Vidyut, V and Du and Ta have no meaning at all. The word itself has a meaning. In Chinese, Vidyut is represented by a letter. If you look at it, you know it's talking about electricity. It's actually talking about clouds and the power coming from them. So that's electricity. There's also a symbol for a child, like this. It's
okay.
So if you put that "sir" after electricity, it means an electric. If you put a gadi, a vehicle, after electricity, it means an electric train.
Oh, okay.
You put it after the sign for fire. Fire and gadi means an jug gadi, a gadi.
A gadi.
It is that's so actually Chinese language itself is quite simple. It has no grammar, it has no declension, no conjugation, nothing. But
is it?
Then they make up like Japanese. They make up by having so many patterns, speech patterns, to convey something.
Okay.
Rice made by my mother. For example, my mother prepared rice. Okay, my mother prepared rice, and if you write "lo" after that, it becomes a past tense. So the patterns are quite different. It's interesting to see that people think differently about things. Not everything is like our Indo-European languages pattern. Like even if European languages are different, they are more or less the same as languages in India as far as structure goes. Karta, karma, kriya, padra, subject, verb, object. But apart from that, there is not difference. All of them have their conjugations and things like that. Chinese has nothing. Japanese has nothing. Korean has nothing.
Okay. Nice.
Learning Korean also gives another viewpoint that 60% of Korean vocabulary is Chinese. It's twisted a bit, like in Urdu they twist the Persian words a bit. They write mahabbat, but in Urdu they say muhabbat. So or shukriya. In Persian it is called shakar, but in Urdu becomes shukar. So if I want to say I thank you, it's mata shakaran in Persian, but it's shukriya. So that change happens, but I like studying Korean because I could figure out the Chinese words behind it.
Okay. This is interesting. So I can see that you are very curious about finding out things or similarities or differences between the languages.
They fascinate me really.
Hmm. So when did you discover this love for languages?
That I would know. I was always good in languages in school also. I used to get quite good marks in Sanskrit. For Hindi, for some reason, I kept getting 57 marks in every standard, every exam. But Sanskrit was quite good. English was quite good, yes. I always thought I would go for science, but I
Great, great.
didn't
So this
discover
goes.
that my interest in German triggered it off me, I think.
Right. Sir, why do you think learning languages is important?
See, in Spanish, they say, una persona que hablar dos lenguas vale dos. That means a person who speaks two languages is worth two persons. That is why. So that's why you need interpreters, because they know both the languages and they can understand what this fellow is saying, what Chakke Panji is playing, but he does not transmit it to the other party unless this fellow tells the truth. But then it's a Shrungapati. But otherwise, it's interesting because I have found another thing. I have always been fond of Latin American music. After I learned Spanish, I started seeing words in those tunes that I heard. I don't know the words of it, but from the length of the words, you can make out what language they're playing. Like Italian words are very long, French words are very small.
Okay.
So the notes that play those words are also small, shorter. So I started seeing a Spanish kind of coloration on the music. Like if you know Italian, if you know about design, and you go to Italy, you can start understanding Italian's pattern of lines and the French pattern of lines. That's how you can distinguish an Italian car from a French car. So that also gives a different perspective on people thinking about it. And also I realized that Germanic people are more like this. They must have their everything in a grid. Then they will have fun, but they must have everything. Whereas Latinic people like French and Italians and Portuguese and Spanish, they are happy-go-lucky people. They don't want boundaries. They don't want anything. They want their siesta in the afternoon. And Khushal Chandu. Austrian is a curious mix of those because they are actually Romans who learned German. So they have their fastidiousness from the Germans, but at heart they're fun-loving persons. Their language is also musical that way.
Fun. True. So you're in this language industry for a very, very long time as a learner, as a teacher, and also translator, interpreter, many things. So what changes would you like to see in the industry?
I would like translators not to get obsolete. I do. No matter how good translating devices become, like the work I am doing at the moment is mostly MTPE, machine translation post editing.
Okay.
Hardly anything comes for direct translation. I was lucky to get some translation work recently, but it's mostly MTPE. But still, the fact that they require MTPE editors and proofers after that, and a project manager on top of that, and still they keep discovering errors. That means translation will not become obsolete. No matter how good Google becomes, they're stunning how well they have managed. Very often they get very correct. Of course, they get very correct translation many times because they can get the actual official translation on their site from for example, Mercedes site from Porsche site, they whether it's called by turbo or by hyphen turbo, or whether B is capital, T is capital or not. That's that customer specific vocabulary, and Google does accept. Google does find that. And that is a good use, but you can't rely on Google, obviously.
Great. And which other languages do you plan to learn?
No, at the moment I want to really complete my Chinese, because I keep forgetting, as I told you. And I really would like to go to China, Japan, and Korea and speak in their language. So at least to that language level, I want to go. I could use my French in France and my Swedish in Sweden and Dutch in Holland. So I want to at least get to that level. Chinese is very fascinating. I'm not worried about the government and Chinese competition, that part of it. I'm not concerned with it. But their songs are so beautiful. Chinese language, Chinese music used to be, like it used to scratch my ears. But these days, new Chinese music is so lovely. Chinese and Korean, their movies are lovely. Their dramas are wonderful. Korean, I have come to love Korean movies. I may or may not understand much of their Korean. If it's written down, I can read it, and some of it I understand. Chinese also script. Sometimes I get some word here and there. I would like to follow a Chinese movie in Chinese.
Oh, great. Great, sir. It was a lovely conversation, as usual. I enjoyed it. And I wish you all the best for your Korean and Chinese and Japanese learning and visiting the countries.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
झनक झनक झन झंकारितः अखिल जगति भुलवी रसिक मनांचा तारा गीत